Gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever you are. And thank you very much for making time for another edition of AFRAA Skyconnect. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are moving away from familiar territory to somewhat unfamiliar territory. And by this, I mean we are going to be discussing aviation insurance, which is not a very common, familiar topic to most of us who might be listening today. But I do hope that you will find it very exciting, especially as it impacts our businesses every single day. So I hope you find this session very useful and very informative. My guest for the session today is none other than Mr. Denis Kulikov. He is the Deputy CEO of AI12, a global insurance firm, and he is currently based in Dubai, but they actually provide insurance products in the aviation industry covering beyond Africa and the Middle East. They actually are in as many places around the world as they possibly can. But ladies and gentlemen, our discussion today is going to take us through some of the basic fundamentals of aviation insurance, the risks, the incidents, the claims, the mitigation measures, and Africa's risk profile and the collateral impact on aviation insurance costs and the expected value add that AI12 brings through its partnership with AFRAA. But before I get to my guest, Denis, I was just reading the other day, and they said globally, an annual research last year indicates that among the top 3 major risks for insurance are cyber incidents as number 1, then business interruption as number 2, and then changes in legislation and regulation as number 3. Fortunately, air transport or aviation did not figure in the top 3. In fact, what we also do know is that aviation is one of the safest modes of transport. Therefore, with all of these things, it's mind-boggling at times that insurance cover in the aviation sector still is exorbitant, particularly on the African continent. And with Denis today, we are going to try and understand better our insurance risks and what we need to do, if anything at all, to mitigate such risks. So welcome, and I wish you all the best. Enjoy the session. Denis, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Rafael. It's my pleasure.
Before we actually start, I would want you to just tell us briefly about yourself and who AI12 is.
Yep, with pleasure. So my career in aviation insurance is almost 20 years. So I started in early 2006, and so I've been in different roles. So I started as an aviation risk manager, so I do know how this works from inside of the airline. Then I was an aviation underwriter, so I was working for insurance companies. Then I switched to the broker side, and since 2015 till now, I've always been an aviation insurance broker and has been responsible for different risks worldwide. I joined AI12 almost right away after the company was created in 2022 in Dubai. So the owner of the company invited me to join him as a partner and start this business here. And we started as a partner of Aviation Solutions Group, the biggest ACMI provider worldwide. And actually, despite AI12 is a relatively young company, we managed within these 2.5 years place over 360 aircraft. This is our portfolio, and we work with different airlines, airports, MRO providers, pilot schools in different continents, in different countries, including Africa, of course. And so that's who we are, insurance broker, and we tend to think of ourselves that we are the kind of broker that plays on the part of the airlines, on the part of our clients, rather than on the part of the insurance and reinsurance market. So we love to call ourselves a counselor, insurance counselor and broker.
Yeah, thanks. But why AI12? AI12 sounds more like artificial intelligence version 12. Is that what it means?
Well, I'd love to have my boss here to explain this, because this is entirely his creation. So there is a legend, and then there is a technical story. I'll start with the latter. So technical story is very simple. We needed a sharp, short, and easy to find on the top lists in different events name. That is why A came there. I comes for insurance. 12 is the standard 12 months policy in aviation insurance. So AI can come after aviation insurance 12 months policy. And then there is a legend that this is ANVAR insurance, or AI standing for artificial intelligence, because we do believe that the future of insurance can be reached out by new technologies, including AI. And 12 is the owner of the company's lucky number.
Oh, okay. Great. Thanks so much. That's interesting. Yeah. So AI12, really catchy, very easy to remember indeed. Yeah. So now tell us, within relatively short period of 2.5 years, you said you've actually backed some 360 aircrafts in your portfolio, and you're working with MROs, you're working with training institutions. Now, why aviation insurance? Why must we focus so much on aviation insurance as an industry?
Well, first of all, this insurance itself is a tool of risk management, and you actually use insurance to cover your risks in case your risk appetite is low for something. And as long as aviation insurance involves aircraft, which are really, really expensive assets, so any damage, any loss of one can really make your life as an airline or as an airport or as a MRO, your life can make your life difficult. And then there is a liability. The passengers now entering the aircraft, they really wish to see whatever happens, whatever anything happens, they really think that aviation, being the fanciest probably type of transport, all airlines are extremely wealthy, and they will pay out the claims on the highest level. So the liability limits, especially in Europe and the US, are extremely high. And then there's a third thing: all the leasing companies, they would like to have their assets insured and secured. So that's why that risk goes away from airlines to insurance companies. And insurance companies provide a standard solution, which is insurance. So that's the simple and short answer to this question.
Okay. So are there different types of insurance in the aviation sector? Or is
yes.
Yeah. What
yes.
are they? Yeah.
So we should start with something that is called a main policy. So the main risks you will be looking for is hull, covering the damage or total loss of the aircraft, and liability, covering the risks of liability claims from the passengers or any third parties. So this is the core coverage, the most expensive policy, and the most important one. Second comes hull war. So because in general, the main policy would exclude war risks and risks of terrorism from the coverage, and then you will need to find different insurers who are specialized in this types of risks to cover your hull war risks. Then third coverage would go after hull deductible, because modern aircraft are really extremely expensive assets. Then the standard deductibles would give you a non-insured 1 mil for wide body aircraft and 750 for narrow body aircraft. So those airlines who would like to purchase more insurance protection, they will buy down the deductible to 50,000 or 150,000 or 250,000, and that will be covered by a separate insurance policy called hull deductible. And last but not least is so-called XS AVN52. This product has been presented to the market massively after the tragedy 9/11, when it appeared that there is a risk that third parties would suffer from the aircraft terrorist attack even more massively than passengers on board. So XS AVN52 policy covers liability towards third parties only, and in case of war risks or terrorist attacks. So those four can be considered the comprehensive aviation insurance protection, forming of four policies, and then around that you could also seek for some additional coverage, but they are, it will take us another hour to discuss all of them.
Okay, thanks. Now, you said insurance is a tool for risk management, and so one then would wonder, how do we assess this risk? And is it risk from the operator's perspective or risk from the insurer's perspective? How do we determine this? So first, how do we determine this risk?
Well, the risk is simple. If we want to talk about how we look at this, so aviation, despite being the safest type of transport worldwide, still there is a risk that something might happen and it cannot be prevented. So occasionally, and with no intention of this to happen. So that's what we call the risk. And then airlines or any aviation industry companies who are purchasing the insurance protection, and then underwriters, the risk assessment group of people on behalf of insurance companies, they will tend to think of the risk in different manner. For the airlines and for the aviation industry, risk is something they would like to be taken away from them financially. So in case there is a damage, in case there is a liability claim, that should be covered by someone else, the insurance company. For the underwriter, however, the risk is, and the measurement of risk or assessment of the risk is statistically how what is the percentage of possibility that risk will take place for this airline, for this airport, for this region, for this aircraft or type of aircraft, and so on. So if we look at this risk from the underwriting perspective, then the standard underwriter would be looking at where the company come from, how big it is, what kind of aircraft, what type of aircraft, how old the aircraft are being operated. And unfortunately, the profile of the passengers nowadays is also a very important thing because, for instance, the US courts liability claims can get you as high as you can imagine, while, for instance, Asian or Eastern Europe courts are less aggressive, and the plaintiff lawyers are also less aggressive. The payouts there are much lower than in the US. That means that the underwriter, considering the risk from different regions, would also be looking whether this is an international company, whether this is a long-haul aircraft, or it's a entirely inside the country, regional, local, small operator with low risk profile from the possible court litigations. So all these things, actually, what underwriters would look for, how much money will I have to pay in case of a loss? And that factor depends on different dimensions.
But does it also work that in a manner that this is a probability? If there's a loss, yes, but if there is no loss, what happens? Do we share the booty, or is it returned?
If there's no loss, then the underwriter can call himself a really good one because he assessed the risk, he provided the fair rates, a fair price, and the client delivered no loss. But the thing is that aviation insurance market is not that big, and it's not like gambling or simply gambling. I guessed it will be a zero loss this year, and my bet won or failed. It's about longitude relationship and long-term partnership. How do I understand the risk I'm assessing, the risk I am taking over? For instance, there are some insurance companies that would simply not take risks from certain regions, or they would not take over some type of the aircraft, because statistically they believe they don't want to participate on that. So it's not about just making one deal and the deal is off. It's always about thinking in advance, because at the end of the day, if you have been an insurance company for airline X for 5 years and everything was great, the loss record is clean, the airline is growing, the safety is in place, everything is good, and on the 6th year there is a loss, and a massive one. Does that mean that you made a mistake as an underwriter? Does it mean that the airline made a mistake? I don't think so. That means that it's just life. Aviation is safe transport, but there is always a risk, and the risk sometimes occur. That means that on the 7th year, we need to sit down together and look at it, what is going on, and how we will go on together. So that's what it is about also. So underwriting about figures, about numbers, is just half of the deal. Second is how we look at this strategically.
And so when if an incident happens and you have now to sit back with the company, the client, to review, do you review the future relationship based on your knowledge of what might have precipitated the incident, or you take into consideration other factors?
Well, me personally, I vote for taking into consideration all the factors, because again, there is a claim handling process, which is a very important part of insurance and aviation insurance in particular, and then you can't if you narrow your view down to just one incident and make your assumptions out of just this thing, well, most probably you will be out of the trend very soon. So you have to see and to think wider, and you have to consider all the factors that are on the table. Yeah.
Okay. Now, so now if you take into these factors into consideration in assessing the risks, and these factors pervade across regions. Now, there is a perception in Africa that the risk premium that African operators pay are much higher than global averages. First, is this assessment true, and what could be informing this?
Fortunately, yes. I would not, say something different. Yes, it is true that underwriters, which are like 98% from London and European countries, they do tend to think of African region as a high risk profile region. Then looking at the different countries, at the different types of operators, different types of aircraft, there is some diversity. But in general, African risks would be considered risky ones. This comes from two main sources of information, if I may. First is the safety statistics, which in previous decades, well, let's be honest, wasn't really good. However, it's been evolving ever since. But the perception, well, I've always knew it was not that good, stays. It's just a human factor. Second thing is lack of attention. And that's again a human factor. And that's exactly where I do believe we can make difference. I mean the whole African aviation industry. This is where we can almost force those people to come and see and to evaluate, to assess the risk on the real facts rather than on the assumptions or on some statistics behind just figures. And that's something that can be changed. Yeah.
Honestly, I do hope we can be able to bring everybody together to reassess the African situation. I believe that things have moved on quite a bit, and there's some significant improvements, especially in the area of incidents and accidents with regards to the aviation sector. Yet our premiums are still high. In some cases, they said there's also an element of political risk. I said, for heaven's sake, airlines are not politicians. I mean, they're just running businesses. Why are they tied into political risk of situations? Is there any reason why the national political risk can become a factor?
Well, look, on one hand, yes, political situation can be a factor. You probably know that by my last name, you can understand that I'm from Russia. And in 2022, there are over 560 aircraft stuck in Russia, precisely because of the politics. And, all leasing companies are now really crying for not being able to get their aircraft from there. But on the other hand, who would think of that such a massive loss or claim would come from Russian region? They've been talking about that they are afraid of such thing happening somewhere in Asia or in Africa or in Latin America, but one of a sudden happened right round the corner of Europe. So that's that's what you also need to consider when you're arguing and when you have battles in negotiations with underwriters and insurers. Yes, risk assessment is there. Yes, statistics is there, but there's always a black swan, which you can never expect, when you can never predict, and it comes unexpectedly, one of a sudden, from the place you never expect. So, as I say, if you want to change something, you have to grab the risk assessors, the underwriters, bring them to the airline and show them and discuss them the reality rather than possibility.
Now, when you mention about aircraft being stuck somewhere, it just reminded me of the several years ago, African states came up with what was called the Cape Town Convention and Protocol. This was a convention that was, if ratified by the states, would, in the opinion of the drafters of the policy, reduce the insurance premiums a bit, because when you default, for instance, if you lease an aircraft and you default in your payments, then the owner of the aircraft can come into your country and take his aircraft away. Because currently it's not the situation in many countries. And so if they owe you and the aircraft unfortunately is in the country of the operator, it becomes difficult for you to access the aircraft until you wait and impound it somewhere else. Now, but unfortunately, we've not had very enthusiastic support of this policy. I think to date, we still have under 20 countries that have ratified the Cape Town Convention and Protocols. And it's always our appeal that, look, we want all the African states to consider doing this for the sake of their aviation industry, and also for the integrity of the business of insurance in Africa. Because if you go to lease an aircraft, you must live by the terms of the lease. Otherwise, then you must avail the asset to the owner to be able to take out. But this has not been the case. Do you know of incidents elsewhere that Africa can draw on to sort of assist in fast-tracking such a process?
To my mind, Cape Town Convention is in more favor of leasing companies to deal with African airlines and African business. Attitude to insurers would be secondary and probably more for the hull war risks, because the confiscation or block of aircraft by the country of registration or country of origin of the airline is entirely with the hull war policy. On the governmental level, look, the more open country to different conventions in aviation, the better for the risk assessment. But from, like, to talk about things on the ground, it's not that much about the governments. It's more about the particular airlines and their understanding of flight safety and how they treat the relationship, an international relationship. So, for instance, those companies and those airlines who tend to enter the IOSA certification and some standards of flight safety and maintenance and pilot trainings, that can really move the rates down and can really make underwriters see that actually they are dealing with the airline, and not just like with numbers came from African region. Yeah. So that I think would be a stronger driver than the international conventions.
Yeah. So okay, let's make some bit of progress here. I know there's insurance, but there's also reinsurance. Can you tell us what is the difference and why?
Well, to be honest, it's very easy. Some countries, to be honest, many countries, they have a local legislation protecting insurance business locally, which means that if an airline registered in country A would like to purchase insurance coverage, insurance protection, it must go to a local insurance company based in the country A, as well as the airline is. So the direct policy will be an agreement between the two companies registered in one country. Now, normally, aviation insurance involves a very massive agreed values, several dozen of millions, and hundred of millions liability limits. And sometimes, pretty much really often, leasing companies, they demand a certain financial stability of insurance companies that provide this coverage. So these two factors makes local companies in different countries take over a reinsurance. So they take the risk and reinsure it somewhere. And somewhere is London underwriters, Lloyd's of London, and European countries such as Germany, France, probably Swiss companies can take over such a massive risks like in aviation. So that's how reinsurance come over and provide additional protection. So, for instance, there is a 100 mil liability limit, and I'm the insurance company. I can take 1%. So in case there is a claim, I will pay only 1 mil. 99, I will have to reinsure somewhere else. So that's how the reinsurance works.
Oh, okay. That makes it clearer and makes sense. So you pass on the risks that you cannot afford to bear to someone who can carry the risks.
For example, I can't take a very heavy thing myself, not strong enough. Yeah. I'll call you. You will be my reinsurer.
Ah, okay. Because I'm a macho man, so I can come and do
exactly. Okay. Exactly, and we do it together.
Yeah, sure. Now, but again, we're talking about insurance, and earlier you talked to us about whole insurance and other liability insurance. But I noticed, besides the airlines having insured their equipment and the business they will be doing with this equipment, we also find at times passengers requiring insurance. Why?
You mean passengers themselves?
Yes, passengers themselves.
Well, because this is the different type of insurance. Look, if I put myself in the place of a passenger, and I have a flight, my main risks are actually I'm late for the flight. I want to postpone the flight. I haven't been given a visa on time. So actually I want to secure my money. While the liability of the airline is entirely about my life and my health. So if I'm late for the flight, it's my problem. Nobody will reimburse me. The aviation liability insurance doesn't cover that risk. So the insurances that are being purchased by the passengers themselves, they just cover different types of risk. Sometimes passengers can purchase an insurance coverage, a so-called personal accident, a PA, in addition to the liability of the airline. Because, again, it works in different manner. if I purchase a PA policy for, I don't know, 50,000 US dollars, and when I am on board of the aircraft, someone broke my leg. This is the liability of the airline, but I will have to go to the doctor. I will have to provide the receipts. I'll have to wait. I maybe will have to go to the court to prove that so I was suffering and I need to be paid. It will take time, months, if not years. While the PA policy I purchased I will be paid within a couple of weeks. So I'll get the money from the insurance company. I purchased the insurance myself, and then eventually I will get the payment under the liability insurance of the airline.
Yeah, so thank you. Now, this is a very good point for me to get into the subject of claims, because the whole essence of insurance is actually to mitigate your risk.
Exactly.
Now, under what circumstances would the insurance pay claims, and what recourse do insurance their clients have?
Let's make two types of claims roughly: hull, like the physical damage to the aircraft, and liability, any kind of claims from passengers or any third parties. So when we're talking about the hull claims, it's pretty much simple. This should be a registered event, so we need to determine the time and date, and it should be an impact from outside. So for instance, a bird strike. If we're talking about a malfunction, if we're talking about breakdown of the aircraft, this is not an insurable event. But if there is an external impact to the aircraft, so the actual damage to the aircraft or a total loss, unfortunately, then the airline has to provide all the documents for repair costs, and insurance companies will appoint a so-called loss adjuster, the independent company where they have engineers working for them. They will assess all the information provided and will confirm that yes, these costs are reasonable, and that's it. Then the costs will be covered and reimbursed subject to the applicable deductible. The difficult thing is when you cannot determine the date of the loss. For instance, a bird strike that has happened a long time ago, and the damages has been revealed during the boroscope inspection. That might be a difficulty. And second difficulty is when the airline is tend to get the aircraft back in the air as soon as possible. And for example, the airline chooses to purchase a new equipment instead of damaged equipment. And that can be a problem because insurers can only reimburse for the repair costs, not for the purchasing something brand new. Only in case the damage is beyond repair, probably this is the case where the insurers will tend to pay for the new one. So that's the hull. The liability is driven simpler, but the handling process is more difficult. So actually claim against the airline from anybody, passenger or any third party, that the airline is liable for something, that is the driver for the claim to be opened under liability insurance. And then the insurance will provide a law firm that will protect the interest of the airline and insurers. They will go to the court if needed. They will provide a time for negotiations with the claimant if needed. And then when the claim is agreed, the money is being paid directly to the claimant. That's it.
Okay. So now, with this, how about if it's in the case of an accident, there is collateral damage on the ground? What happens to that?
Again, It depends on whether this collateral damage is proved to be related to the incident and insurance occurrence, and what are the claims from the claimant. Again, yeah, they will be considered. Sure.
Great. Now, let me pick two questions that have come in from some of our listeners, and you react to them. The first one is from Moses, and Moses says, how is climate change, for example, increased turbulence, extreme weather, impacting aviation risk model? Is it impacting it at all? If so, why? How?
Well, I think our listeners think too much of aviation underwriters. In general, if they were visionaries of insurance industry, they might think of this impact in some future. But as of right now, underwriters in aviation insurance are more or less following the industry thinkers. So if, for instance, tomorrow, I don't know, ICAO or Association of Airlines of Africa, for instance, comes out with a statement that climate change affects your operations in a certain manner, then in this case they will reconsider. All right, what does it says from the safety perspective? If this doesn't concern safety, if this doesn't concern risk possibility, then I'm fine. Everything is all right. If climate change at certain point will affect flight safety, 100%, the next day it will affect the insurance rate.
Okay, thank you. A second question from Moses still says, with the rise of drones, including aircraft inspections and eVTOL aircraft, how is aviation insurance adapting to these new technologies?
Oh, it's a very good question. This is a new industry for aviation insurance, a new sub-industry, and unfortunately, still it is terra incognita. So we are talking about something that is being born just right now, and we're evidencing this, and we're just following how it goes on. There are certain companies, not too many, to be honest, who are considering themselves pioneers in insurance of eVTOL and any unmanned aerial vehicle, UAVs, and it's a separate market, it's a separate trends, separate types of risk management, risk assessment and underwriting. So. Summarizing, it is there, it's developing, but it doesn't affect the airline insurance business. So they're still the old school guys as they were 10 or 20 years ago.
Thanks. Now, there's a question from Haftamu Abraham. It says, thanks for the informative session. Could you please share airlines or aviation organizations currently partnering or collaborating with AI12? I think this one, Haftamu, I would recommend that you reach out to Denis after this separately, and he can provide you the airlines that they have on their portfolio. Sure. But the second part of the question is quite interesting. It says, how would you assess the African aviation market compared to your engagements in other regions? Are you observing encouraging developments?
Well, in my company, I'm responsible for business development in African region in particular. So I would say I love African region. I've been traveling through Africa for 1 year and a half so far. I've been seeing several countries, different decent people, really decent airlines, and I do, as I say, I do believe that the attitude towards African aviation can be and should be changed. There is, to be honest, there is a lot to do. But I think my knowledge and my experience in particular can benefit me in delivering what I really know what to do. Because when I started aviation insurance in 2006 back in Russia, the attitude from UK and EU underwriters towards Russian risks were pretty much the same. There were lots of superstitions. There were lots of cliche about type of aircraft operated in Russia, safety measures, safety standards in Russia. So I've already been there, and I know how to break this wall, and I'm happy to serve here.
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Another question from Emmanuel Souza says, is there a relationship between international conventions, such as the Montreal Convention of 1999, on airline liability and the insurance requirement?
Yes.
Is there any correlation? Yeah.
A direct one and quite significant. Those airlines who are registered in the countries who ratified Montreal Convention, they are subject to a fifth jurisdiction where any passenger on board can sue the airline on the liability claim in the country of his or her passport. That means that, for instance, an airline from one African country traveling to another African country or to an Asian country, having a US citizen on board, if all three countries, including the US, have signed and ratified Montreal Convention, that means that in case that anything happens on that aircraft, this US guy will sue you in the US courts. And be no hesitant that the sum of the claim will be above the clouds. So Montreal Convention indeed has an impact on the risk profile assessment.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you so much. So ladies and gentlemen, keep letting the questions come, even though we're running quite late. But if you have one or two more questions, we might be able to take them. But until then, you talked about you have been where Africa is before in your work life in insurance, whilst you work in Russia. So can you tell us, are there any measures that African operators can take, either on their own or with their governments or other stakeholders, to actually mitigate their insurance risk?
First of all, to my mind, invest in flight safety, invest in pilot trainings. That's number one and number one. Second, find really good partner and professional partner in representing your interest as insured, as insurance purchaser, experienced well enough to represent you in the UK and EU market. So traditionally, you have to have a broker, an insurance or reinsurance broker, to place your risk there. So no matter what kind of local legislation you have, whether you need the local insurance company or you don't, please make sure that you establish direct contact with your broker, because they are the ones who will be standing by you in the UK and European markets. Third, well, on the governmental level, actually, if you're a flag carrier, if you're a governmentally owned company, well, you probably have to follow the protocol. But if you have an ability to establish business relationship with your government and explain your needs, why you need to do this, why you need to do that, and that will help you to avoid, over bureaucratic things and to make decisions rapidly that would affect your overall business, not insurance only. That's it, I think. Yeah. Be safe, have good pilots, and use professional counselors. That's top three.
Okay, great. Thanks. Now, let's shift a bit to another area. Just wanted to know, you are fairly young on the market. What is your coverage, your global footprint, and your African footprint? And who are your partners in business?
Well, our main strategic partner is Avia Solutions Group. The headquarters, they had actually two headquarters, one in Vilnius, one in Dubai. And thanks to that, we cover almost really worldwide. So we have clients in Australia, we have clients in LATAM, we have clients in Canada, almost all countries in Europe, some former USSR countries in CIS like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. In Africa, we have clients in South Africa. We are now in some negotiations with clients in Uganda. We have partners in South Africa, local insurance brokers, because according to South African legislation, you have to have local broker. And we have another partner in Uganda, a broker called Clarkson. They have a branch of representatives in several African countries, 6 or 7, I think. So we've started actually late last year, and we've already, where we are. So, we don't tend to leave. So we will be expanding.
Great. Okay. And you joined the AFRAA partnership program. Do you have any plans for sort of joint insurance packages or things like that for AFRAA member airlines?
Yes. So being partner of AFRAA as an entity, AFRAA as a community, we really would like to represent a unified approach and a kind of special program and special attitude to AFRAA partners. And we will be presenting certain initiatives very soon. We're working closely with Maureen here, and yes, to be short, yes, we will. Without saying something that is still not concrete, AI12 will be providing a special service and special offer for all AFRAA airlines and all AFRAA members on the basis of being partners in one community.
Oh, okay. That's good, and we look forward to having those discussions and coming up with something really helpful to our members. Now, the future of aviation insurance. If you look at all the financial solution providers, it would appear that insurance has remained the way it has been since it was started.
More or less, yeah.
It seems to have shifted at all. It looks as archaic as it first started. Now, going forward, do you think there is an opportunity or window for insurance to actually mutate into something much more likable, much more flexible, much more easier to adapt, and so on and so forth?
Look, I have to admit, I'm pretty much a pessimistic person. Probably that's why I started as a risk manager. However, my senior partner, my boss, he's a real visionary, and he tends to think and truly believe that insurance and aviation insurance in particular must change and will change pretty soon, basing upon AI and all the digital technologies we are all looking at in other industries. I would love if his belief would become true sooner rather than later. As for me personally, I tend to think that aviation insurance follows aviation as an industry. So aviation is an industry primary here, while aviation insurance is secondary. And aviation insurance is somewhat, how to say, well, not changing that rapidly. And, we don't see too much of innovative technologies there. So it's still solid and changing not that rapidly. So depending on how the aviation industry evolves, aviation insurance industry will definitely follow.
Okay, so we'll see how we look forward to a much more flexible approach. We have another question from one of our guests. So let me pick that, and you give a response to. It says, in light of general aviation and regional flights in Africa, what best options are there for ensuring and leasing the aircraft for Starter Airlines? So it's like it's looking for the best insurance option for leased regional aircraft. Is there do you have a best a product, an insurance product for regional operations and general aviation? General aviation is the private operators, and then the yeah. So he's asking whether you have any packages for such aspects.
Yes, we do. Yes, so one of our clients in South Africa is entirely a GA operator. It's a rotor wing and fixed wing, but all GA. And we managed to deliver a really good deal with a very good security panel, and we managed to deliver the results much better than local providers. So yes, we know how to break the deal. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about the airline, the airport, or the GA operator. However, I have to admit that sometimes, depending on whether the aircraft are owned or leased, whether we're talking about the brand new and expensive aircraft, or this is a relatively, not highly priced aircraft, it can be placed locally. So if you are okay with local securities, if you have established a proper relationship with local insurance providers, why not? Don't go to the expensive and fancy insurance and reinsurance markets in the UK and EU. But again, we can also act not only as a broker but as your consultants. We can deliver you the result from the local markets and from the overseas markets. It doesn't matter because we work for the clients. We don't work for the insurers.
Yeah. So then a question from Mustafa. He says, fuel insurance. I'm not too sure whether you are into that space as well.
What insurance?
He said aviation fuel insurance.
Fuel.
Yeah. And he says it's a really over $1 billion business. Now, and it takes a heavy toll on businesses, particularly in his country, Nigeria. And he was wondering, how can this be managed to bring down the cost of insuring aviation fuel? That is why the fuel provider.
Oh. I want to be a hooligan and tell Mustafa hire AI12, and your rates will definitely go down. But to be serious, you need to go through the chain of the price makers. So if in Nigeria you have to use the local insurance company 100%, that's I'm sure of. So if you only get the price from your local provider and you have established a good relationship, sit down together and go through the whole chain. If there is a reinsurance, who's doing it and where? That will give you the better understanding of the price. So you have to go through the whole chain.
Yeah.
And you will understand where and how you can mitigate the costs.
Okay. Thank you so much. All too soon, our time is up, but I cannot let you go until you have given us your final word.
As long as we are already out of time, I will be very short. And I say to everybody in different types of business, please choose to work with professionals. Whatever you do, whatever you choose. If you really want to get a quality delivered for a fair price, and you want to control the costs, hire professionals. Find them and hire them and work with them. That's it.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we draw the curtain to another exciting episode of AFRAA Skyconnect. I thank you very much for your time. Thanks for your engagement, your questions. I also wish to thank my guest, Denis, for taking time off his busy schedule to be with us today and to share some thoughts and knowledge on aviation insurance with us. I hope we all found it useful. We look forward to having you again in another edition, same time next month. And until then, I look forward to seeing most of you at the AFRAA Aviation Stakeholders Convention in Kigali. And I hope, Denis, you will be there.
I will be there, and I'm giving a masterclass there, specifically on aviation claims handling. So we'll be happy to see everybody there.
Great. So if you would be there, try and book into the aviation claims masterclass, which Denis will actually facilitate. Until then, thank you very much, everyone, and I wish you all the best. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.